Hi, welcome back to Let's Build, and today we're going to build this glorious violet coloured Porsche 911 Turbo S Cabrio. Now I think it looks really stunning, but you see, I would say that because I configured this on the Porsche website, and this is something I would highly encourage you to do if there's a car that's still in production, it's in the game, and you want to build one, and you like IRL cars, hit that configurator. It costs nothing, unlike the £202,000 I have spent, albeit virtually. You're looking now at the configurator, and of course when you go through one, whilst all the options are fun, you really just need to concentrate on the paint, the wheels, the spoilers, the sort of things that you can buy, and of course the available colours. They play a huge part. If you don't want to go crew colours, you might just prefer to take one of the ordinary colours that will work. With companies like Porsche, there are all these bespoke colours that you can have. The choice is absolutely massive. And here, if we look at the violet section, you can see this particular colour. This is what I've chosen. I think it's lovely. It does require a crew colour. We'll talk more about that when we customise the car. Now with the wheels, I thought I'd blow another £1,800 on these 20 and 21 inch 911 Turbo S exclusive wheels, especially when I found we could sort of match them in the game. For the interior, I wanted a sort of grey. I thought that would go quite well with that particular violet. They do one here, a grey with a touch of blue called graphite blue, and I think that one or the slate grey would work. There wasn't much else I needed to do. I did go down and have a look at the body graphics, and I went for the black stripe that goes over the bonnet and apparently over the roof, but I keep the roof retracted all the time on my Cabrios in the garages. You'll see when we customise the car there's a slight compromise there. Before we get into the build, and this is why I leave chapter marks, a bit more about the colours. GTAcolours.com is a really valuable resource. There are hundreds of colours on the website, and I would say most of them are hits. There are a few misses. There are some that have disappointed me, and I've ended up making my own. But for example, go to the Porsche section, you will find here Viola purple, which is perfect. You'll see that we have both the hex and we have the pearl for this colour. It's also quite good if you're just after a bit of inspiration. You can just start flipping through colours you fancy and looking at the car, and maybe you can build one of those. I use this a lot, not exclusively. I do also make up some colours. I do also go to some other places, but this is my main resource for colour information for the game. Finally, we're into the workshop. We're going to use the car meet so we can choose the lights from here. The armour, I always say to full. I like driving this car, so the brakes are to full. And with the front bumpers, when you compare them with the real car, you look at where the coloured parts are, and when you look at where the lip is and the grills, you'll see actually just the stock front bumper is by far the closest. And as you go down the others, some look okay, some look silly, but none of them are as good as the stock one. Around the back, the rear bumper isn't quite the same. We don't have that black area with the squared off exhaust in it, for example. It is a little bit different. And there are many variations on a theme here, including weird ones like removing the bumper or just taking all the grills out. Taking the bumper off allows you to choose your exhaust. You'll see later there's different sort of pipe arrangements, but it's all pretty pointless for practical terms because you don't see them. So in the end, just stock on the back bumper is absolutely fine. Engine to stage 4 because you know you want to. Now with the exhaust, as I say, it doesn't really matter, although I have crossover exhausts here. They all look pretty much the same on the first 3. They're all quad exhausts. None of them are square, so I would say just pick any of the quad exhausts really. You can see what the Fender's choice does. There's very few builds of this car that need them. Now the hood, I have the smooth hood, but if you look at the real car, there's actually little ridges running up and a slightly lower part in the middle like the stock hood. But the stock hood doesn't end with that big grille. It doesn't go quite so deep, like that grille there. What we want is a halfway house between the stock hood and the smooth hood. It doesn't exist, and I have selected the smooth hood. I think it's slightly the better of the two options. The others just have race car cutouts or are carbon, so they're not really suitable for us. Onto the lights. Now you see I had xenons. I did that without thinking, but when you look, the stock lights are really good. They're a nice bright white, and so for goodness sake, don't select those bluey xenons. stick with the stock or the ones from the car meet, which are also a nice bright white, but really there's nothing between the two. I waste 20,000 anyway because I like to put car meet lights on, but just honestly leave them stock. Now the graphics, you can see the Black Vista graphics are great for what we want almost, but let's just look at all of the different liveries quickly so you can see the sort of things that are available for the car. The first few all seem pretty decent, but then we move into the racing liveries, and my only comment there is that I think generally if these cars were raced they'd probably be racing the hardtop version, but anyway. I'm selecting Black Vista graphics. It's perfect over the bonnet. It does unfortunately leave the stripes on the side, which our car does not have, so it's not perfect, and you may think about making one of these just without graphics for that reason. We have the crew colour on the primary, and that's shown here. We also have the Schafter purple for the pearlescent. The secondary is exactly the same. On the Cabrio, the secondary just does the mirrors. Rolled steel inside, as you can see, gives that grey, almost bluey grey sort of effect. Spent ages choosing between two skirts. We have the performance skirts on the car at the moment. We also have the tuner skirts. They both have the requisite mostly body colour, then a very thin and slightly sticking out black skirt underneath. Viewing down the sides of the car, in the end I do decide that the swage lines of the car are slightly closer to the real thing on the tuner skirt than the performance skirt, so spend a bit of cash, hit the button, and that's the one we're going to select. The real car has a noticeable splitter, but it's not huge, it doesn't stick out far, and the stock one is by far the best match here, so that's a pretty easy decision. Onto the spoiler. We can't quite have what we want, which is an almost like a little raise to the boot lid plus a wing. There's actually very few options here, so it's a standard ducktail, a big ducktail, or smooth. Well, I think the high ducktail is just too much, so in the end I have simply gone stock. I think that small ducktail is fairly close. The suspension, sport suspension, looks to have the right sort of gap here between the wheel and the arch and looks to be pretty close. Competition obviously looks slightly better, but if we're going to be a stickler, let's stay with sport. Transmission and turbo I've maxed out because I like the car, and you may as well have turbo noises. Now these wheels, which you've seen are very close, are in the track category. They're called throwback. They look great, and you might start to think that they've been painted because you can see some dark colours, but this is in fact how they come. They're just alloy coloured. They look really good, and you see if you go black you get that which you don't want. Don't forget your bulletproof tyres always. Now I have selected a light smoke, but in fact unless the hood is up you're not even going to see that, so you could save a few quid there. And that is the build on this lovely car completed. I really like this build. In fact I like it more than I liked it earlier in the year for the garage tour. I painted it here in Viper Green. It needed to be Signal Green, but they're very similar, and Viper Green is the one I had the code for. But no, I do prefer this purple one better. In fact, I even think the colour perhaps more suits the nature of Cabrio than does the more racy green colour. Now, a number of things about this build are similar when you build the non-Cabrio version, although that has a lot more choices in some respects, such as spoilers, interior, things like that. And we will discover more about that, because the much promised but never delivered manufacturer's catalogue for the 992 version is not too far off. I've been doing a bit more work on that today, in fact. So we'll get that out soon, and that will give you 5 different builds to build on the standard Comet S2, and that should be really good fun. One of my main goals of putting garage tours or these builds on YouTube, of course, is to inspire you, to give you the ammunition to go off and make some really good real world cars yourself. And I hope this video delivered in that respect, and if it did, please show me that by hitting a thumb or writing a comment or both. It would be so much appreciated. And of course, if you're not subscribed and YouTube brought you here, but you like real cars and GTA, that's it. Hit the sub button right now, you won't regret it. We have another deep dive coming out on Sunday, and until then, thank you so much for watching.